Constitution by our founding fathers that people in positions of power are just human beings and they're subject to human frailties and weaknesses, and power attracts the very kind of people who ought not to have it. And so, in point of fact, it is dangerous to allow these executive orders to stand. And Obama should rescind them all immediately.
Yeah, I wish that he would rescind them all immediately. What really gets me is the tone of the article, where they're defending torture in many cases, where they're saying, you know, it's basically making every excuse in the book to keep these orders, and because it's a new face, it's not a problem. No, it's a problem because it gives people in the executive branch an obscene amount of power when we were supposed to have checks and balances in this country. That's why there's 3 branches of government, folks. Okay, judicial, executive, and legislative. But the executive has just gotten so out of control with its powers. I mean, the line is not only blurred, it's gone. All right, let's go to Todd in Florida. Todd, what's on your mind?
Hey, Jason, what's going on, bud?
Not much. What's happening?
Nothing. I actually just sent a picture from a camera phone to Aaron. And
okay.
I have somebody that's very close to me that is in the Postal Service, and they recently had to deliver. They had 3 or 4 of these packages on their route, but I'm pretty sure they're mass distributed. And big, huge package, and it's a survey, and on the front of it, in big, huge letters, it said 2009 National Survey for North American Union and NAFTA Super Trade Highway. Now, it's a survey. It's a mass survey going out.
Do you know who's sending it out? What's the outgoing address? Did you get a chance to look at that?
I'm not really sure. I sent the picture to him. He might be able to pick it up off the picture. I wasn't there at the time. They had to take the picture and drop it.
You know what? Send it to my MySpace, too. Can you send me a link to my MySpace? It's myspace.com/Jason Bermas, because Aaron does get quite overwhelmed. I do try to read all the messages that I get. I may not reply to all of them, but I'd love to see it as well. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much in the open. Even, you know, Dobbs, one of the few people that actually reports what's going on in this country, recently did something about the Securities and Prosperities Partnership, and the Obama administration is opening talks again. You know, it's just like the Trans-Texas Corridor gets reported last week that it's dead. No, they just renamed it. It's under a different project. They're not going to tear the road down that they've built. They're going to continue to build it. So, you know, this is just more expansion, more of an advancement. And these surveys that they send to people, it's to feel them out, to see what they like and what they don't like, what they feel is positive, so that when they do run a commercial, you're going to be more apt to say, you know what, that's a great idea. We do need that. All right, let's go to our next caller. Let's go to Brian in Iowa. Brian, what's on your mind?
Nice talk. Hey, Jason, nice to talk to you. I wanted to thank you and the Loose Change crew for turning me around about 3 years ago.
Oh, thank you, man.
I'm calling from Prison Camp, Iowa State.
Okay.
They recently had protests going on against the Gaza invasion, and yesterday they had it going on in front of the Memorial Union, I guess, and one of the administrators came out and told them, sorry, you can't do that here. If you do not move to one of the designated free speech zones, you will be arrested.
Mike, why don't you talk about these designated free speech zones? Because most people think, oh, we have free speech in this country. We can talk about whatever we want. But as soon as we talk about anything that matters in this country or anything that matters about Israel and Palestine, all of a sudden we don't have those same rights, do we?
No, we don't. This free speech zone, it's an absolute joke. It's a slap in the face of every American who ever died defending the Constitution and the Bill of Rights through all the wars we fought up to this point. And basically what it means is you have freedom of speech, but the government reserves the right to put you in a special free speech zone, which means you're away from the press, you're away from the public, and you can say whatever you want as long as you're in these places where nobody can hear you. And it's a very disingenuous way of handling the situation, because the whole point of free speech is that you are to be heard. It isn't necessarily the right to speak out what you're saying. It is a right to share your thoughts and your ideas with your fellow Americans, whether that's in the public square, on TV, in the newspapers, or here on the internet. And the idea of the creation of the free speech zone, it is simply an attempt to corral up dissidents and put them in a place where they can say, yeah, you can say anything you want over here, but we have the right to make sure nobody else can hear what you're saying. And that's what the government is arrogating to itself right now. And basically it hamstrings the First Amendment. We really don't have a right to free speech if the government can tell us where we can exercise that right.
And this was really born right before the 2004 elections, when the Democratic National Convention, the Republican National Conventions were coming to big cities like Boston and New York, and they didn't want a visible protest outside. So they create these pens, miles away or 2 miles away. It's unbelievable. I thank you for the call. And that's why Alex Jones has used his bullhorn, Tyranny Crusher 1, to circumvent these kind of things. When they won't let you near him, well, you're going to hear his voice anyway. And we're happy to say that is reached over $50,000 on eBay, and today is the last day you can bid on that. Remember, folks, all that money that comes in from that is really going to be to expand the studios here in Austin, Texas. And from what they were when I came down to make my film Fabled Enemies in April to the new studios now, it is like night and day. And there's Tyranny Crusher 1 in Scanner Darkly. I mean, it's the same exact bullhorn. It's signed by Alex Jones. It truly is a piece of history. We really hope that you support us. All right, let's go to our next caller. Let's jump to Fred in Philly. Fred, what's on your mind?
Hey, it's good to hear from you again. What do you think about the possibility that there's no country in the world that really isn't bankrupt at this point? I mean, if you look at it from
hold on, before you get there. First of all, countries that still make things, that have factories, they're not really bankrupt because they can still, make goods and have goods and services in that country. All right. Secondly, some countries still have precious metals that are always going to retain value, okay? Not so much the countries, but the leaders of those countries and the elites in those countries. Silver, gold, platinum, this is stuff that's retained value for thousands of years, so that's not going to go anywhere. As far as countries already being bankrupt, I mean, what's the debt right? What's the deficit in this country right now, Mike? Is it almost $1 trillion?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's going to be way more than that next year. And I think what the caller is talking about is the fact that when you have a monetary system that is based on debt, as we do in the United States with the Federal Reserve, the problem with such a monetary system is that more money is owed than actually exists. And so the system will work as long as there's always a new young generation of borrowers coming in at the bottom of the pyramid to prop up the system. But what happened here in the United States and is happening around the world is you don't have those new borrowers coming in, and so the whole system's beginning to collapse. You thought Bernie Madoff had a really ugly pyramid scheme, but the entire Federal Reserve System is a pyramid scheme as well, because it can only exist and perpetuate as long as there are always more and more borrowers coming in at the bottom of the system to allow the creation of new revenue.
All right, let's jump to the next caller. Let's go to Mike in Wyoming. Mike, what's on your mind?
Hello, gentlemen. I wanted to follow up on something Mike Rivero said about getting around the 13th Amendment, and which was true as far as he went. Basically, you do volunteer in. I heard this from an old Air Force buddy of mine. The way you get around it, at least in the past, and I think this is still probably valid, when they ask you, all right, everyone who volunteers, take 2 steps forward or whatever. You do an about face and take 3 steps backwards, and probably you're going to have a sergeant in your face for the next 48, 72 hours barking at you and trying to make you feel like you're the scum of the earth, but they can't force you to volunteer is the bottom line. So
but the thing is that they're going to file charges against you. It's just like
no, they're not going to file charges against you. They may try to get you into some kind of other conscientious objector type status and do some kind of charity work, but they can't force you to volunteer.
I just don't say, I think it's just like that argument of common law and the IRS, the people that are out there. I mean, there is no real law in the book for the,
well, there's
federal
income
tax, but, they're going to come after you with the IRS and the military.
No, Jason,
I'm just saying, if they come out with a mass conscription for people where they say conscription's happening and you get in line, you say, I'm not going to do it, they're going to throw you in the brig, man. I find it hard-pressed that they're just going to let you go. And we know that they want to build a domestic civil force. I mean, that's what Homeland Security was about, being brought in after 9/11. That's just one facet of it. We have Homeland Security offices right around the corner of the new office. I mean, it's an expanded bureaucracy. So I can see them giving you the choice of whether you want to serve in the armed forces or you want to serve domestic surveillance at home. But I don't think they're going to give you the choice to just walk away. It won't be just... I don't believe like they're just going to try to, convince you to take one or the other. I think that they're going to basically say you do this or you're going to jail or you're going to military prison or you're going to regular prison. Mike, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think looking back at the case of Aaron Watada, he was